Hey friends, I hope the morning's treating you well. I want to tell a story this morning about Keith Moon and Jerry Garcia. I've been reading this book. It's Living with the Dead by Rock Scully and David Dalton. And man, it is quite the adventure. Just to give you an idea who Rock Scully is, it says, from the first night they performed as the Grateful Dead, Rock Scully was there as manager, confidant, and co-conspirator. He was a linchpin of the Dead family and Jerry Garcia's closest friend. It says, written by one who escaped with his life, this is the book that everyone who loves the Dead has waited years to read. It says he was with them for 20 years. So Rock Scully has quite the gift for language. There's colorful metaphors all through this and the anecdotes. I want to warn everybody ahead of time, this is not for the faint of heart. I'm going to do my best to tone it down wherever I can, but maybe some of you might want to sit this one out. I'm not sure. I just want you to know that ahead of time. Anyone who's ever been around road crew people, even local crew, tour managers and people like that, there's a day-to-day language that they use that would make Lenny Bruce blush. It's there's a harshness. Most comedians who believe they're edgy have nothing on road crew guys. I just want to warn you with that. So to lead you into the story, the Grateful Dead are staying in New York. Jerry Garcia is going to do an interview with Casey Kasem, and at this hotel they're staying at, it just so happens President Carter is staying there at the same time. So there's Secret Service people everywhere. Some of the Secret Service people were Dead fans, and they ran into some of the family members and band members, and they're in a hotel room all hanging out and intermingling. Jerry Garcia walks in, and there's the band, family, and then there's obvious people who are some kind of cops or security or something. The Secret Service people stand out really bad, and first thing Jerry Garcia says is, "Where's the drugs?" Rock Scully says, "We're staying at the Navarro on Central Park South in New York, a hotel the Who have been trying to sell us for years. They own a third of it or something. We've got adjoining rooms. Jerry and I are spending a quiet evening in the global village, working on our hobbies, recreational drugs and watching TV, the eternal, endlessly shape-shifting box. Its nature changes with each new drug. With grass, you want to turn the sound off and play records. On acid, everything that happens on the set is uncannily calibrated to each fleeting thought. You are TV. With blow, you talk over it, talk back at it, shoot it dead if need be. It's alive." This gives you an idea of where this is all headed. They're sitting there in this hotel room, and they hear a tap, tap, tap. I'm like, what was that? And they're sitting there quietly. "Did you hear that?" And they sit there and tap, tap, tap. I hear it again. Like, what in the hell is this? And somebody says, "It's something outside the window." The thing about blow is it breeds paranoia. It's contagious. There are enough demons flapping through our brains as it is without some alien entity crouching on the windowsill 40 stories up, tapping on my casement window. They're 40 stories up. That's an important part here. I don't want to engage Garcia's alarm system over nothing, but this is, let's face it, a critical situation. It's one of those dread occasions where you need another human being to tell you you're imagining the whole thing. I know from bitter experience, Jerry isn't that guy. Nevertheless, they hear tapping again. They're like, what is that? And they keep hearing tapping. And it says, "Jesus, there it is again. Turn off the TV set, man, so we can hear the damn thing." They turn off the TV set, and they hear the tapping. So it's probably a pigeon, and it could be anything. Yeah, it could be anything. And then it starts beating on the window louder. I'm like, what in the hell? And so whatever it is, it must be huge. Now, Jerry's not taking any chances. He assumes the shield position from the high school manual, what to do in case of a nuclear attack. So Jerry Garcia freaks out, and he gets underneath the writing desk. crouching down there for safety. And he says, won't you check it out and see what it is at the window, Rock? And they're completely out of their minds and imagining the worst of everything. And Rock's like, great, I get to check it out. Something terrible is going to happen to me. Let me go check it out. So Rock Scully says, I pull back the curtains with a dramatic flourish, and there, outside the window, I see the fearsome popping eyes, the demented predatory grin, the fiend itself. He screams, ah! That clockwork orange orb of a face could only belong to one person, Keith Moon. Keith Moon is outside on the window ledge, 42 floors up in this building. The demon drummer of The Who is blithely grimacing back at me from his precarious perch. I pull open the window and let him in. I say, Keith, what in the hell are you doing out there? In a barely recognizable imitation of the bard, he drones, may I please crawl into your window, baby? This is the point where I try to do some British accents and fail dramatically. I apologize. I'm terrible at this, but I'll do the best I can. Because he's so paranoid from doing blow in his room alone all night, he's double bolted his door, forgotten that he's done it, and is too stoned to figure out how to open it. Calling the desk in this state might arouse unwanted questions, and quite logically, he decides to inch along the ledge between our connecting rooms. So Keith Moon is locked in his hotel room and can't figure out how to get out, so he crawls out on the ledge, 42 floors up, and starts walking across, trying to get in somewhere else. Come in and do a few lines, man, Jerry says sweepingly. The euphoria of relief and surprise in the room is intoxicating. Don't mind if I do. So this is written with the idea of trying to show Keith Moon's British accent. It says, what about going out and creating some havoc, lads? That's terrible. It's the best I can do. I'm sorry, folks. The eyes of Moon are like asteroids of Saturn, whirring in their own lunar orbits. They're independent entities, a sort of coke-crazed pair of quasi-human agents, an amped-up Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and both of them want to go to Studio 54 now. Jerry generally never wants to go out once we get to New York. He likes to vegetate in his room with the big color TV until showtime. New York is way too much input. It's abrasive and intimidating to Californians, especially Californians as high as we are. But Moon is fearless. He's a force of nature. He's unstoppable. Jerry loves Moon. He has an abiding affection for maniacs, Kerouacian Roman candles, the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live. Quoting Kerouac, exploding like spiders across the sky. Beautiful Kerouac quote. In the company of Moon, all apprehensions about New York vanish. They don't mess with us. We're the Tasmanian devil. Garcia's suddenly very animated. Oh, we're going out. Cool. I'll just go get my coat. And he leaves. Moon's wheels are spinning. He wants to go out to the discotheque, Studio 54, but he's forgotten his stash, and he must have the stuff. It's his familiar. So he goes out in the hall and uses his key in the door, but naturally it won't unlock. He forgets he bolted the door on the inside, so he can't get back into his room. And his brain cells are fried at the moment. He's trying to figure out how to get back in. And out in the antiseptic hallway with the carpet with the matching deep pile burgundy borzoi pattern, the Mad Hatter of The Who ponders to himself. How could this happen? Let's see. I'm out of the room, but yet it's bolted. So Keith Moon has no memory of what just happened. He walks out in the hallway, uses his key, can't get in. He doesn't remember the door's locked from the inside. He doesn't remember he just came in through the window. And he's like, how am I going to get back in? And they said, well, you came out the window on the window ledge. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do that again. It's a quandary, all right. While I make a few phone calls, Moon disappears into the bedroom. More tapping. This time it sounds like a giant rat caught in the walls and clawing its way out, which when I go in there to see what's going on, turns out to be pretty close. There he is, the giant rat of Sumatra, busily gnawing away in my clothes closet. There's dust all over my clothing, lumps of the wall all over the floor. What in the hell are you doing in there? My room's right next door. So Keith Moon is tearing out drywall and stuff, trying to get into the room so he can get his drugs out of there. He's like, man, we can get more of whatever you got in there somewhere else. Don't destroy the room. And it says, he doesn't hear me. He's a man possessed. He's stripping the plaster off the walls with a buck knife. He's got that mad Jack Nicholson with an axe look. Here's Johnny. He's a miracle of enthusiasm. Now he's got the plaster off and he's down to the lath and the bricks. Won't be a moment, he says, and splits. Am I being too optimistic to think that he's abandoned his nutty project? Keith Moon leaves for somewhere. He's gone to raid Pete Townsend's stash, most probably, but no, it's too good to be true. He goes down to the basement of the hotel and comes back up with a chisel and a hammer. He's taking the bricks out one by one. Keith Moon says, I own a third of this hotel, you know, and I'm going to get in so much trouble for this, but he doesn't care. He's pounding away at it. He's determined to get back into his room and get his drugs. So Jerry comes back and goes in to take a look. He's standing there with this look of devastation. It's like, Jesus, Moon, what are you doing? You're looking like a human mole. Finally, the hole is big enough. Moon wriggles through it and gets his stash and crawls back through the hole, once again forgetting to open his door. He's now covered with dust from head to toe, like a ghoul recently exhumed from a graveyard. I feel like I should probably jump in here and say, what a crazy day-to-day life it must have been to, be in the Who or the Grateful Dead. Keith Moon's out of his frickin' mind. We all know the stories of Keith Moon being a madman, but, this illustrates it pretty well. I should also point out the President of the United States is staying in this hotel, and the Secret Service is crawling all over it. How in the hell are they not finding this crazed Keith Moon, this madman? It says later that same night, Captain Gas shows up with one of his monstrous tanks of nitrous oxide. It's over 6 feet high and is so heavy it has to be wheeled in on a hand truck past the Secret Service. How do you may ask, would you get such a massive thing through the hotel lobby without someone stopping you? It looks like a small bomb. But he's had years of experience at this, wheeling G-tanks into the hotel lobbies covered up with a raincoat and a hat on the top, pretending it's a drunk friend, hugging it and getting it into the elevator before anyone notices that it's not a human being. I can't picture it either, but somehow upstairs it goes. So when they use the nitrous tank for a long period of time, it starts to freeze over, so they have to warm it up. And they somehow carry this big thing into the hotel shower, and they're running hot water on it. The shower rod has collapsed, the shower head is bent, the tiles are smashed. Finally, we get the shower on it, full on hot. It starts to defrost. It's a little precariously balanced at the bottom of the tank on the edge of the tub, but no matter, it's working again. Rock Scully goes on to say, going out on the town with Keith Moon is like spending an evening with Harpo Marx. He's a magical creature. That's a pretty damn good analogy. Harpo Marx and Keith Moon. I can't imagine what day-to-day life would be around Keith Moon. I'm going to assume that a lot of you know about Jerry Garcia's love of The Who, where he really, really loved The Who and Pete Townsend and the music. And it went both ways, but some of you might not know that. And I love those stories of bands that just really dug each other's music, even if it was really, really different, or there'd be a mutual appreciation. But man, this is a crazy, crazy book. The very next chapter, not even chapter, the very next section, they start talking about meeting Salvador Dali, where there's just a chance, they're like, hey, Jerry, you want to go meet Salvador Dali? And he's like, what? Yes. And this mutual appreciation between the Grateful Dead and Salvador Dali. And there's another great story in here about the Grateful Dead playing New Year's Eve in Oakland, I believe it was. Someone runs into Etta James, and they're like, oh my God, we got to get Etta James to go play with us. And somebody contacts Etta's people, and she's got a gig. She's playing across town somewhere. And they're like, Rock, make it happen. No matter what you have to do, whatever you have to pay, get Etta James to come play with us. And he kind of moves heaven and earth. There's this thing with tour managers or people of being able to make things happen, make really impossible things happen. And it was just part of the norm of that job. And he managed to get it to her. And they, of course, the Dead play a bunch of songs they used to play with Pigpen that Etta would sing. And supposedly she loved it. She really loved it. And after the gig, she keeps saying, "I'll tell you what, that Harry Garcia, he can play guitar." And they're like, "It's Jerry, Etta." He's like, "Yeah, I'll tell you what, that Marty Garcia, he can really play it, man." He keeps saying the wrong name, which is hilarious and funny. I just want to be sure to drive home this point. A lot of people enjoy watching car crash videos, but it's no fun to be in a car crash. And a lot of this book is living through car crashes. And it's interesting to watch from afar. Sometimes you remember, man, these were real people, really super talented, interesting people who were just completely out of control at the time. And it's no way to go through life. And you don't need to live that way to make the amazing art that these people made. I just want to point that out to folks. And if you're having trouble with something, get help, man. You know, people around you love you and want the best from you. But did you ever see The Who with Keith Moon back in the day? Did you ever stay in the hotel that The Who owned a third of? That had to turn out to be a pretty good investment, right? If it's right off of Central Park. Hopefully they held on to it pretty long, but I think The Who's probably not hurting for money anyway. But did you see the Grateful Dead back in the day? Did you see that gig with Etta James? That would be cool in Oakland. Any of my Oakland friends? I know I have some Oakland people that watch this. But just tell me down below, and I'm going to put a video up here that I think you guys will enjoy. Click this and watch it, and I will see you somewhere down the road. Much love to you.